This video is going to focus on the urogenital system of a female. The very first structure you can see on the right-hand side here is the kidney. The kidney is responsible for filtering our blood, and any of the waste will get drained and become urine and go out through the urinary system. The connective tissue that was covering the kidney encases the adrenal gland, which you can see right here in white, that's running next to the vena cava. Now, the adrenal gland is not part of the total urinary system. It's more part of our endocrine functions, although it regulates how much water we retain versus how much we get rid of. You can also see the blue veins here. These are the renal veins, and there is a parallel pink artery, which is the renal artery. It's a lot smaller than the veins. And there's also this tube that's coming down. This tube is the ureter. The ureter is what drains the urine from the kidney to the bladder. And if you follow the tube here, it connects to this structure. This is the bladder. The bladder will hold the urine until it's expelled through the urethra. The pink structures you're seeing on either side of the bladder, those are actually the umbilical arteries. Now, if I lift this structure up, you can see the full bladder, and you can see where the urethra comes down. And the urethra actually connects to, it's referred to as the urogenital canal, where essentially this is where the vagina and the urethra come together to get expelled through the urogenital opening down here. Now, if we're looking at the reproductive structures of a female, you can see that there's a whole bunch of these coiled structures right here. And those are where you can find the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the uterine horns, and where they connect together. So the ovaries are these very tiny structures. That's where the eggs are coming from. In pigs, they don't have a very large fallopian tube or a very long one. It's a very short connection to these coiled structures. The coiled structures are referred to as uterine horns. Where embryos will develop after fertilization is along these uterine horns. This is why a lot of mammals, aside from humans, are able to have multiples, because they've got multiple areas where an embryo can develop. Now, where the two branches come together in this Y region right here, this is the uterus, and the uterus continues down, and basically right about here where it's a little more swollen is where the cervix is. From the cervix, we enter the vagina. This would be the birth canal. The vagina will connect into the same opening that the urethra did, so the urogenital canal, and it will drain through the urogenital opening. This video is going to focus on the male reproductive structures and urogenital system. So the first thing that you can see up here is the kidney. The kidney will drain into the ureter, which is this tube that travels down and under a couple other structures to the bladder. The bladder is this structure right here. On either side of the bladder, you can see the umbilical arteries, and from the bladder, the urine produced that was stored in the bladder will leave through the urethra. The urethra actually comes out on the underside, and you can see that it travels through the pelvic cavity. And as the urethra exits the pelvic cavity, it becomes part of the penis, and the penis will extend the remaining portion of the length. Now, the reproductive structures of a male are typically outside of the body as well. And I've already dissected the scrotum and made it so you can see the testes. This is what it looks like before you do a full dissection, and There is some fat pads, there's some muscle. This structure is referred to as the spermatocord, and this is where the vas deferens will travel through. This is also where there's a lot of blood flow and nerve endings, and the muscle in this region is what allows males to retract the testes into their body if they start to experience too much cold. So for the actual structures, you can see that this is the testes. Inside the testes is the structure called the seminiferous tubules. The seminiferous tubules are where the sperm are produced. Then when they are ready to mature and ready to be released or ejaculated from the body, they'll get stored in this structure called the epididymis. Then they will travel from the epididymis along a tube, which you can actually see the tube right here. It goes behind the bladder. This tube is referred to as the vas deferens or the ductus deferens, and it will join with the one from the opposite side of the body before it connects to the urethra. And in this area, you can also see that there's some granular tissue. This tissue is the seminal vesicle. The seminal vesicle is responsible for producing some of the primary fluid for the semen, which the semen is a mixture of fluid and the sperm. And this fluid is rich in fructose, which gives the sperm a quick energy source for the distance that they will have to travel to fertilize an egg. As the semen travels, it will come in contact with the prostate gland. Pigs do have prostate glands. Prostate glands are very, very minimal in fetal pigs, so you won't be able to see them in here. But we do cross an area where there is another type of gland. This is called the bulbourethral gland. The bulbourethral gland is responsible for creating what is often referred to as pre-ejaculate. It is an alkaline-based fluid that helps to neutralize the acidity of the urethra from urine, and it also allows for sperm to have a higher chance of survival as they're making their way towards an egg for fertilization. Now, this concludes the male reproductive system.